Hello, subscribers! I have got 3 animes to review today. 2 of them I was not planning on reviewing. They were just guilty pleasures, and I use the word pleasure loosely because they were not good. But I just watched them to either be depressed or embrace my depression or whatever, and instead they just made me angry because they were not good. And then the third one, I will cleanse my palate with Oh My Goddess, but I haven't actually rewatched it yet for this review, so I will have to do that in a separate recording. But the first 2 animes I will talk about is My Happy Marriage and Rent-a-Girlfriend, both of which sucked, but one of which significantly worse than the other. But let's start with My Happy Marriage. And again, this is more of a haphazard review. I did not go into these animes expecting to review them, so I didn't take notes or anything. So when it comes to language, I'll just tell you right now, I have little to no idea what the language is, but I'll get to that when I get there. So let's start with the synopsis of My Happy Marriage, and unfortunately, I have to get the synopsis from this site, which is not the site I used to watch it. I watched it on Netflix, but they clearly have a different synopsis here. I'll explain it when I get there. Born into a joyless arranged marriage, right off the bat, that's just not true. She was not born into a joyless arranged marriage. Just cut out that first sentence right there. Mio Saimori suffered the loss of her mother and the addition of a stepmother and stepsister, Kaya, who inherited the family's psychic gifts. This is the major difference with Netflix synopsis. Netflix synopsis did not mention psychic gifts. I went into this anime expecting just a slice of life anime that had some of these, what the synopsis told me, but with no expectation of any sort of magic powers. I was not wanting an anime with magic powers at this time. So that was kind of red flag for this one for me. Anyway, devoid of any such powers herself, Mio was relegated to a lowly, servant-like existence within the household. See, I'm already thinking about just how bad the writing is because of this, because the magic powers aren't there to be magic powers. They're there as a plot device. I guess I should say psychic powers, but they never say psychic in the show. But they never say magic either, I don't think. But anyway, these psychic gifts are just a plot device in the show to get them in and out of situations. This is one situation here that because of her lack of power, she's relegated to a lowly servant-like existence within the household. You could do that without psychic powers, or without the lack of psychic powers. In fact, I'm sure it has been done. Just can't think of any examples. That was a bit distracting. For instance, her father could have just either hated her mother, so therefore he just transfers that hate onto her, or he loved her mother and she reminds him too much of her, so it hurts him to look at her. Both are viable options to put her in this submissive position that makes her less of a person in her own household. But instead, they just lazily throw psychic powers in to do that for them. Next, years of mistreatment conditioned Mio to accept her fate, enduring her suffering silently, and obediently take on any task imposed upon her. Thus, when she learned of her engagement to Kyoka Kudo, a military captain reputed for his brutality toward previous suitors, she felt no surprise. That brutality should not be in that sentence. I think Netflix did this part better, although it's still it's also a sore point. But if I remember correctly, it described him as cold, and that's much better. However, it's also a lie, which is one of the problems I have with it. Yes, he has a reputation for his arranged marriages to not work out, and they leave him. But calling it brutality is just not the right word. Even in the context of the anime before you meet him, it just doesn't seem right. Next, given her unhappy past and the grim prospects of her future, Mio resigned herself to her fate, as she does, until Kyoko's true nature came to light. To her astonishment, he proved to be compassionate and kind-hearted, defying his reputation. Suddenly, Mio glimpsed a future of unending bliss with her newfound partner in like 2 or 3 episodes. That's the major problem I have with his character. This could have been a show where she learns to see how good he is on the inside, in spite of his cold exterior. But no, he doesn't even have a cold exterior. Like, at least not for long enough, anyway. He's somewhat cold a little bit in their first 2 meetings.
So you are the new fiancé?
Yes.
Listen, while under my roof, you will obey me no matter what. If I tell you to leave, then you will leave. If I say die, then die. There will be no discussion.
Yes, of course.
Now, take a bite of the food.
What?
You won't eat it? It's poisoned, isn't it? An obvious ploy.
Poisoned?
I won't be eating anything with unknown contents in it. Have it thrown out. You'll have to try harder than that.
Young master! Young master!
But way too quickly, he gets all lovey-dovey.
Why would I ever want you to leave? I have every intention of making our engagement official as soon as I can. What about you? Do you not want to live here with me?
What I want to stay here with you for as long as you will allow me the privilege.
You don't need my permission. I want you to be here. I want to be with you. I don't want anyone else. If you're feeling lonely, then tell me. If you're in pain, then say that it hurts. I can't know what you're feeling if you don't say.
I'm not feeling lonely, though.
You aren't? Because I feel lonely.
Like, this was... Does it say who wrote it? Let me look here. Studios, producers... I really feel like this was written by a woman who didn't know how men act. It was really just putting her own romance novel on screen. And it sucks. But now, I should mention something I really hate that you do not get out of the synopsis. She has a childhood romance. Or, I don't know how to put it. There was a potential male suitor who wanted to marry her, and she wanted to marry him, and they were childhood friends, but that is not the way it goes.
I only ever wanted to save you. To spend all of our days happy together like when we were kids. I wanted us to be...
Koji!
She goes off to marry this guy who is not even a completely consistent character instead of her childhood friend. And I hate that. That is a big sticking point for me. That was very unnecessary to just, it is an unnecessary love triangle, which isn't necessarily a love triangle because they are resigned to their arranged marriages. It doesn't feel like there's any temptation to cheat, and that at least is good. But just don't childhood romance, girl next door type romances. Those are the best ones. Don't just throw it under the bus like that. Just don't give her this childhood friend that she could have married. They did not need him. It is an unnecessary complication. Now, let's talk more about those psychic powers. The psychic powers are a plot device. One, in order to say she doesn't have them so that she can be looked down upon, because apparently her mother was in an arranged marriage, and the arrangement was because she's from this special family that has the best psychic powers. And when she turns out to not have any, her father is upset and doesn't love her anymore. But spoiler alert, turns out she does have the power. Her mother just hid them. But why does she have this power? Because modern woman boss type thing, girl boss type thing, they can't just let her be the victim. She's got to be the hero, too. So, at one point, she gets kidnapped because her stepsister is evil and doesn't like her being happy. I forget the specifics of why exactly she kidnapped her. But anyway, then her husband-to-be goes to save her. He uses his psychic power because he's in the military. He's very powerful. And saves her no problem. So, of course, they have to have her return the favor somehow. So they make her the most powerful psychic, or one of the most powerful, because of her special ability to go into people's dreams. And this allows her to save his life when he gets attacked by evil spirits that invaded his subconscious or something. So they gave her these powers just so she could have her moment to save him. And this was a missed opportunity where she could have saved him in other ways. She doesn't have to save his life. She could save his... How do I put it? I just realized I could have been showing these pictures at all this time. She could have saved him from his loneliness. That's how she could save him. She doesn't have to save him from physical danger. Akumi Agitogi. That sounds like a female's name, so it seems like I might have been right about it being written by a female who doesn't know how to write men. Anyway, I do not need psychic powers in my romance anime. Don't always want to watch a Marvel movie. Sometimes we just want to watch an Anne of Green Gables or something. Alright, let's get into this nitty-gritty. Sexuality. I don't think it has any sexuality, as far as I know. It's very tame, very safe in that respect. Nudity, definitely not. Homosexuality, I don't think so. Not as far as I remember. Transsexualism, no. Bestiality, incest, pedophilia, no. Violence, yes, technically. He went to save her when she was kidnapped, and she was tortured, but I don't remember how severe the torture was. I think it was mostly psychological torture. Her stepsister threatened to cut her hair.
Be kidding!
I've had enough of this! I'm the one who raised you, all these years of your ingratitude! And as soon as you get a husband, you start spewing this nonsense! You're as wretched as I thought you were! You will not ruin this! My life will not be ruined because a horrible little girl doesn't know her place! Say it!
I've decided that I will be with them until my final breath.
So it wasn't that bad. So yes, it's not hardly that violent at all. Nobody dies. I mean, no named character anyway, as far as I remember. All seems very safe there. Physical gore, I don't even remember if there's any blood or not. I am going by memory, so say nothing on there. Psychological gore, no, not really. It's all in all very safe anime. So it's getting high marks on this, I guess. Isaiah 520, Evil Church. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything there. I guess all you really got is witchcraft, but because of the psychic powers. But even that, I don't think there is one ritual in there where which they use to discern whether she's got psychic powers. I guess you could call that a ritual, but it's not like a ritual to perform a spell or anything. It's just releasing an evil spirit and seeing if she can see it.
Let us begin. We'll confirm if either of you possess the gift of spirit sight. Mio, Kaya, keep your senses sharp.
Right.
I will now open the box.
You stay away! What?
Make of that what you will. And language, I'm not even going to show that. No language. I can't think of any language. So this is very tame. So it gets high marks on this. In this category, in these categories, high marks. Almost a perfect score. but I only rank it 2.5 to 3 stars. They could have done better. So now let's move on to Rental Girlfriend, which is way worse. Oh, where to even begin on this one? The main character is an idiot, and I hate him. Oh yeah, I remember where to begin. Hang on. With the synopsis. By the way, I have only watched season 1. That was enough for me. I do not want to watch season 2 of this garbage. But when Kazuya Kinoshita, a 20-year-old college student, split up with his girlfriend, Mami Nanami, I hate her name. I don't know if they intentionally did it, or maybe Mommy is a common name in Japan. But if you speak English, calling a girl Mommy has some weird connotations to it. I mean, I kind of like how her name rhymes with it. So, Mommy Nanami. That's fun. But anyway, he was left feeling heartbroken and isolated. To ease his anguish, he used an online app to rent a girlfriend called Chizuru Mizuhara, who quickly captured his heart with her winning personality and attractive appearance. I tried to avoid Rent a Girlfriend for quite a while because just the concept of renting a girlfriend just sounds way too prostitute adjacent. And it's like, how are you really going to make a romance out of it? And, well, they don't do a good job of it, but let's keep going. However, after discovering negative feedback from Chizuru's previous customers, Kazura rated her poorly, feeling her amiability was all an act. Which, of course it was. This is why I call him an idiot, and many other reasons. Chizuru called him out for his hypocrisy, resulting in a heated dispute. I don't know about it being a heated dispute. She yelled at him and he took it.
What's wrong with you? Are you stupid? Yelling like that in a public place, drawing everyone's attention? What is your problem anyway? All day you've been saying stuff like, don't you feel empty? And we're strangers! Huh? Seriously, are you stupid? I mean, I'm a rental girlfriend. This is just how it works! You were the one who requested this, weren't you? You saw the user agreement and clicked I agree, didn't you?
I'm sorry.
And why did you give me a 1-star review anyway? Did I actually do anything wrong on our first date? That brought my rating down 0.3 of a point. I'd only ever gotten 5-star reviews before that, and I'm very proud of that fact.
But he did not properly apologize, in my opinion. Like, he said he was sorry, but didn't really specify what he was apologizing for. He rated her poorly, and he called her a moron for not knowing the names of some fish, which I would assume most people wouldn't know. He knows because he's a fish geek, I guess. It's another bad character development the anime does. And maybe I missed it because they only gave a mention to it in the first episode. But he seems to really like fish. But it doesn't seem to be a character trait, really. Like, he has fish posters in his room, and I guess some fish. And his first date with Chizuru was to an aquarium. But you never hear, like, he's studying to be a marine biologist or anything. I actually have no idea what he's going to college for. Again, maybe he mentioned it in the first episode, but then it just gets lost. Like I am. Where am I? Heated dispute. Their conversation was abruptly cut short when Kazuya learned his grandmother had been hospitalized and they rushed to her side. Plot. Once there, Kazuya's grandmother asked who Chizuru was, and in a desperate plea to save face, Kazuya declared they were a couple. Chizuru was forced into playing along, but with Kazuya still struggling to move on from Mami, it remains to be seen how long their pretense will last. Spoiler, it lasts the whole season, because her grandmother is in the same hospital, and it ends up being that she is in the same situation he is with their grandmothers. And actually, this is one thing that Rent-A-Girlfriend did right, in that they seem fated to be together. because they keep bumping into each other. They coincidentally live right next to each other. They go to the same school. It's all very Destiny-like. And that's good. And I gotta take the good where I can, because I'm not gonna find much of it here. Let's quickly talk about the animation before I forget. The animation is not great. Oh, what? Hang on. There it goes. I don't know what that was about. But you see these lines all over here, and they just go from the wall to the floor. They're just there. I don't know what these lines are supposed to be. They're in a lot of scenes, and sometimes they're just very distracting because the scene will move and the lines will stay the same. Like, these aren't there for texture, obviously. It just feels like somebody scratched the camera or whatever device they're using, and they really need to get a new one. It's usually on the background, but sometimes it'll actually be on the characters as well, I believe. It's just one of those things that once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and it's everywhere. So going back to Kazuya being an idiot, he refuses to admit that he likes Chizuru throughout the entire season. Even when he finally starts to admit it in the very last episode, he backtracks and says, "No, I mean, I just want to continue renting you."
So I'll still be there for you as your rental girlfriend.
You.
Excuse me?
It's you! You're the one I want!
Huh? I'm the one you want? What do you mean?
Well, as my rental girlfriend, of course. That's all I meant. You're the only one I ever want to rent, and so it's gonna be so sad when you quit the job and move on. That's all I was trying to say, you know.
Is that really what you meant by that? Quit being so misleading about things.
You're right, my bad.
I just hate him so much. And what really annoys me is that, of course, the reason he doesn't admit his feelings to Chizuru is because she's a rental girlfriend, and he believes that any feelings she has for him is all just part of the job, an act. He doesn't believe that she could actually like him, which is a reasonable assertion because the show does a terrible job at presenting her as actually liking him. It wants you to believe it, it's more focused on Kazuya's inner thoughts than on Chizuru. And this could have worked where he thinks she's not into him because she's a rental, and she thinks he's not into her because she's, well, that, when I say it out loud, it actually does not sound like it work because it is totally unreasonable for her to think he could not have feelings for her. That almost makes her as big of an idiot as he is. It is reasonable for him to think she is not interested in him, which is why it pisses me off so much that when he gets an actual girlfriend, a girl who likes him, wants to be his girlfriend, this girl right here, he is too obsessed with Chizuru at this point to say yes and let her be his girlfriend.
I'm sorry. Please just give me a break.
Take the easy out. Now, another thing that is not explained in the synopsis is that once he starts going out with these girls, Chizuru and, whatever her name was, Mami over here, gets jealous. And seems like she kind of wants him back, maybe. Or just wants to make him suffer. I don't know. I don't like her. She is, manipulative and fake. Like, obviously fake. Like, even Kazuya should be able to see how fake she is.
I just think she's so pretty, and I wanted to get to know her more. But, being so hot must make it hard for you to deal with Kazu's sex drive, right?
Huh?
The problem is, Kazu doesn't have any experience, and he gets this scary, horny look in his eyes sometimes. One time I wore a super short miniskirt on a date with him, and he was all like, I can't stand up right now. Once I let him kiss me, he wanted to all the time, even if he just ate garlic and had terrible breath. And he always tried to hold my hand and take me back to his messy apartment, and you know what that's about. It was almost impressive just how horny he was.
That's enough backstory, Mommy.
What? Why? It's all true, right, Kazu?
If that's how you remember it, then
And then this girl who they just throw in, I think because they want this to be a harem anime. I'm not watching season 2 to find out how much of a harem anime it gets, but okay, I think I'm on the last thing I need to mention for this, is that this show is sexually deviant. It's another huge problem, not because it's bad enough that Kazuya can't admit his feelings to Chizuru, but it feels like he's only interested in her because she's sexy. Like, his prime motivator seems to be sex, because the show itself is pretty sexually deviant. He's always masturbating. I don't need to see that. Technically, they didn't show it. You know what they would do. But this is something that would... What is this picture? I rented... Okay, I just had a look at that. We don't need to know that he masturbates. Like, you could just leave that in the background as, yeah, he probably does. But don't make it obvious. Just let us draw our own conclusions. And then there's the, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, the only word I can think of is degradation, but I don't think that's the best word for it. But the degradation of virginity. Virginity is looked down upon, of course. And at one point, his friends ask him, how many times you masturbate today? And he says, like 3 times.
Yo, Kazuya, how many times you jerk it yesterday?
the story of my rueful virgin life starts right now. Only 3 times.
Whoa, hardcore.
Virgin's gonna virgin.
Back at you.
Who says that? I would hesitate to admit to doing that once, let alone admitting to 3 times in a single day. And this picture reminded me that Kazuya is really dumb about jumping to conclusions. We're running out of pictures here. Alright, let's go to the review chart. Why are you not hiding? Oh, I see. There we go. Alright. Purposely sexualized, definitely. Whoops. I don't think it goes into fan service. Yes, I wouldn't say it's fan servicey, but definitely purposely sexualized. No nudity though, at least. Though, given how adult it is, you kind of wonder why. Like, it feels like they could have gone with nudity. It is not for children. Homosexuality, I don't think so. Yeah. Not really. Transsexualism, no. Bestiality, incest, pedophilia, nope, none of that. Violence, I don't think so. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's violent at all. So obviously there's no gore of any type. Evil Church, exchanging bad for good and good for bad. That might be. I need to think about that. Hang on a second. Well, there is a lot of lying. Because obviously they're lying to their grandmothers, and they end up lying to everyone else, convincing everyone they are real boyfriend and girlfriend, even though he's just paying her anytime they go on a date. But I can't think of any specific switching good for bad that I would not have already covered anyway. Language, crass usage. Crass usage. That's about all I can think of. Again, going off memory, so there could be others, but nothing too harsh. It's just crass is the only word I can think of. I know there are better words that could convey this, but it's just yuck. So that was Rent-A-Girlfriend. 2 stars. Definitely not giving it 3 stars. And I don't want to give it a 1 star because I watched the full season at least. Alright, Kazuya is also a sniveling crybaby, not just an idiot. He's a pathetic loser for the sake of being a pathetic loser. Like, you need to be more obvious with your redeeming qualities. His redeeming qualities are not obvious. It's more like his redeeming quality is his ability to apologize. That's not a very good quality. Oh, and I just remembered something else. Let's switch pictures here. There was a scene or episode where him and Chizuru stay in a, not a hotel, but, it was a spa/hotel. And they make a point, I mean, animation-wise, they don't mention, oh, hang on, there we go. Animation visually-wise, they don't say it, but they show it that, well, him and Chizuru are stuck in the same room together because their grandmas are lecherous. That's another thing I hated. Grandmas would not be trying, they're already, as far as the grandmas are concerned, boyfriend and girlfriend. They would not be trying to get them to mate. That is not something a grandma would do. But apparently these grandmas do. And Kazuya's grandmother has a kind of a lecherous scene with Chizuru.
Ah, so this is only the fantasy of a lecher if the lecher is the opposite sex?
I guess so.
See, I learned something new.
You don't have to do that. This is too nice of you.
Don't be ridiculous. You're my future granddaughter-in-law. It's an honor to wash your sexy backside.
It's not for children. Anyway, the point I was getting to before I got sidetracked is staying in the same room and sleeping in the same room. He has a box of Kleenex next to his bed or mattress, which, given what we've seen him do with that Kleenex, it's rather disgusting that he would have that there. I get it's probably a joke, but I just find it disgusting. Anyway, Rental Girlfriend, 2 stars at best. So now let's move on to an actual good anime. Oh my goddess. Which I will have to make a separate recording on, so which won't make any difference to you, because it's the same video. Well, let's get to it. Alright, I'm back. It has been, I think, at least 2 months since that last recording, and I'll explain why it took so long in a second. But first, I want to mention that my faith in humanity has been raised just a little, because I was not the only one who hated Rent-A-Girlfriend. It is universally hated. I thought, given how many seasons it had and was still clearly going, that it must have been popular, but it's not. It is totally hated, as it should be. Complete garbage. So, if you ever want to get more specifics on why it's such a bad anime, you could just look it up on YouTube and click on just about any video. But as for Oh My Goddess, or Oh My Goddess, so anyone who has paid attention to my community posts knows that I tried to find a version from the 90s. But according to everything on the internet, the only version from the 90s is the OVA, which I definitely never saw until I tried this review, and I still haven't really watched the full OVA. I've only watched the first episode, but I can say with utter confidence that I definitely did not see the OVA before this, because the differences between it and my memory are very stark. But I was sure I saw it in the 90s because I was sure I saw it before I graduated high school in 2003. But apparently, according to the internet, it came out in 2005. Now, sure, I've never been good with dates, but this one was a little much for me to wrap my head around. The movie is said to even come out in the year 2000, 5 years before season 1, which doesn't make any sense, until you find out that the movie is actually based on the OVA, and the OVA did come out in the 90s. But in my attempts to find a version of Oh My Goddess from the 90s that wasn't the OVA, that took me a while. I eventually found a seller on eBay who supposedly was selling a version that was, or a DVD that was released in 1998. However, that DVD was blank. And at first I thought, it's a region code issue, I just need a different DVD player. So I tried to buy a DVD player for my computer, because I had never bothered to get one. And then the first one I bought was for a laptop, because I didn't care about the size. And, you know, slim. Hey, slim's nice. No, slim's not nice. Slim means it's for a laptop. And unfortunately, laptops have different connections. So then I went and got an actual DVD player for my computer, confirmed that it worked, and, of course, it did not play the DVD, because, as I found out later, the DVD was blank. I found out later because I bought a Blu-ray player that was specifically stated to be region-free. So there is no room for error about what is wrong with the DVD I got. The entire set is just blank DVDs. Which was weird because it was packaged very professionally, and buyer beware, I did not prepare myself for that and could not get in contact with the eBay seller. But having gone through all that, I gave up and watched the 2005 version, which, as far as I can tell, is actually the original version, and my memory must just be failing me somehow. There was actually very little for me to go on to be able to say, I remember it this way, and it's not shown that way. Like, all the differences I saw could easily have just been me misremembering. They were very minor issues. And then it was just a matter of me procrastinating a lot, as I do. So, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the review proper, starting with reading someone else's synopsis because it's easier than writing my own. Looking forward to his university life, Keiichi Morisato soon realizes he's not very lucky in anything, be it clubs, love, or just about anything else. That I'm noticing a trend with all these synopses I read that there's always something wrong. Keiichi Morisato didn't just realize he's not very lucky in anything. And if he did and I'm misremembering something else, it's not really important. Lamentably, he seems to have an unlucky star above his head. That is accurate. One day, when his seniors are away, he finds himself stuck with watching the dorms and helping of chores to complete. Heaps of chores to complete. Nevertheless, the good-hearted Keiichi sets out to do his duties. Just when he's about to complete his final chore, he makes a phone call to one of his seniors, only to hear the words "Goddess Helpline" in response. In no time, a stunningly beautiful goddess named Beldandi appears before him from the mirror in his room and grants him a single wish. And his wish is that he wants her to stay by his side forever. I don't know why they didn't include that part in the synopsis. That seems... It's not a spoiler. It is the entire setup of the show, that he wishes for her to stay with him forever, and she grants his wish. These synopsis writers really need to up their game. Now, Oh My Goddess Oh, right. Now, you can call this show either Oh My Goddess or Oh My Goddess. Both are used for it. The localization of it did not go quite properly, in regards to the title at least. Obviously, they should have called it Oh My Goddess because of the obvious wordplay, but Oh My Goddess is a more literal translation. And even on this screen here, you can see both. You can see the title down here is called Oh My Goddess, but all the titles of the episodes start with Ah. So you can call it either one, both acceptable. And the first episode starts with a setup narration that I really don't think is necessary at all. Just some unnecessary philosophizing about fate and evolution, and it's just completely unnecessary.
Infinite space. It brings with so many different life forms. And in this space can also be found the source of all life. For this is where the cycle of life repeats itself within the endless flow of time. So how did this vast universe come into being? These stars, they're born, only to vanish. In what way are their fates determined?
Fate. Are all living things then bound by this thing we call fate? And here on this tiny little planet, life also exists in many different forms, and much is determined by the hands of fate.
Life begins.
And life ends as well.
In the brief amount of time that they have, people live their lives as best they can, until at last they come to an end.
This is a species that has always followed its desires, and has continued to evolve.
Succeeding.
Failing.
Creating.
Destroying.
Could it be that even though humans have created all this, they are still controlled by fate? And if so, is this something that is completely immutable? Furthermore, what if one's fate were suddenly wrested away from them to be controlled by an unknown being with no regard to their free will? If indeed your fate is being controlled by the hands of some unknown being, then who or what could this unknown being be?
And you could skip it, if you know where to skip to, but it's completely unnecessary to anything that happens. Now, first, in the small amount of notes I actually took, because I suck at taking notes for this type of thing, when, in the first episode, when his roommates go out for the night and expect him to stay behind, you get this slight impression that it's like Cinderella missing the ball. But he was already planning on staying home anyway. So it was just sort of schizophrenic a bit, Like, did he want to go or not? He didn't seem all that bummed that he wasn't, but it also seems like he did want to go. And I know I said this is the best rom-com ever written. It is the best romance anime, period. The best purely romance anime. Except that now that I've actually seen every bit of it, except the OVA, it's not 100% romance. There are some fights, sort of, but any fighting is like a C-plot. It is just not what the anime is about. Although once season 2 hits, because the anime should be entirely focused on the romance of Keiichi and Belldandy, which in the first season, it does that perfectly. Like, the first season is a standalone anime. You don't actually need anything else. The second season leans more into the sitcom territory, but I'll get more on that later. Let's first finish going through my notes. Episode 2, we have to suspend our disbelief in one way with this show, that everything has a spirit. Now, on the plus side, this is a good way for a goddess to have power, which, through everything having spirits, when Belldandy is using her magic, she is exercising her authority over those spirits to perform spells, quote unquote. And that's good. That's how gods and goddesses' powers should be. Their powers, as we see them, should really just be them exercising their authority over the natural world. Or supernatural world. Just whatever world. So that much is good. I do not like the way it's used in every circumstance. For instance, in episode 2, when they are trying to find a place to live, this is one point where I actually think the OVA did it better. I only watched one episode of the OVA, but this part they did better. Because in the OVA, Belldandy just told Keiichi where to go. Turn left, turn right, here we go straight. But in the series, she asked the spirit of money to find them a place.
What? You'd actually be able to do something like that?
Oh, spirit of this thing called money, ye which bear the hopes of this humble man. We are but merely two wandering souls, souls who seek refuge. We are calling upon you now to reveal to us the path you would have us take.
Oh, crap! There goes my entire fortune! We've got to go after it!
Yes?
And that just doesn't make sense. Even if I were to accept the idea, suspending my disbelief, that the money can have a spirit, why would that spirit know where to go? It just makes no sense. Now, that was episode 3, actually. But moving on. So, getting back to the spells. They are not consistent about this. The show does suffer from a lot of sitcom writing, which hopefully I will remember to get into soon. But a major part of that is their world building is all over the place. Well, maybe I'll get into it now. The lore you get from the show is on an episode-by-episode basis. One episode will introduce something, and maybe it'll stick, or maybe it'll be forgotten about in the next episode. I am at a branching path right now about the things I want to talk about. But here's one thing. The anime does not directly state this, but it seems like, in the context of the show, the real world, or Keiichi's world, is just a computer program, and the goddesses are all just entering the program somehow. The anime never states this outright, but the signs are all there. They will constantly call the spells they use programs. In fact, the main villain of season 1, the Lord of Terror, basically tries to initiate Ragnarok. There was a lot of Norse mythology used in the world building. Belldandy's sisters, Urd and Skuld, are Norse in some way. The Ultimate Destruction Program is what it's called. It's not called Ragnarok, it's called the Ultimate Destruction Program. And it takes the form of Fenrir, and then they use an antivirus, which takes the form of the Midgard Serpent, or Serpent of Midgard. And when the computer system Ragdrazel, or Yggdrasil, they don't pronounce it like Yggdrasil though, when that breaks down, it sends bugs into the world. So all the signs are there that the world is just a computer program, so Belldandy fell in love with an AI, basically. Back to the sitcom level of writing and stuff they mention and then forget about. The very first thing is called the System Force, which is a plot device to get Keiichi and Belldandy to fulfill the wish. Because in the first episode, we're not supposed to believe that Belldandy loves him, so they need some way to force them to get together and live under the same roof. And the System Force, which is the Yggdrasil computer system just forcing them together in basically the same way God would, just using natural events that you would just pass off as coincidence. Not some grand miracle of just teleporting Belldandy next to Keiichi anytime they get separated. But then eventually the system breaks. The System Force stops working, and then it's just forgotten about and never mentioned again. And I have a theory about that, because later, I don't know how much later, I forget what episode it was, and even what season, though I think it was season 1, we actually see the System Force in action. But this is after the point where they stopped talking about the System Force. But basically, Keiichi's sister gets possessed by a demon and forces Keiichi into very embarrassing circumstances that make Belldandy angry or jealous. And then some coincidental fortune happens that convinces Belldandy, because she's very trusting, that it was not what she originally thought. Now, some might argue, no, that couldn't have been the System Force because Belldandy can recognize the System Force. She did so earlier when the System Force broke, because it broke on a bang. It had a very big moment, and Belldandy sensed it and knew Keiichi was in danger.
What are you doing?
Do you love me? Tell me. The System Force is reacting! It's so strong, he could be in danger!
And then we never hear about the System Force again. What I think happened, though the anime will never tell you this, because it was just a plot device, but what I think happened is that the System Force broke because Belldandy could sense the System Force active. And she was one of the people the System Force was trying to apply its program to. But part of its program is that it needs to look like a coincidence. It can't be something that is sensed. And her sensing it just made it not work. It couldn't work properly if she knew about it. So it gets fixed. And when it gets fixed, it is improved so Belldandy cannot sense it anymore. That's what I say happens with the System Force. Easily the most forgivable plot device that is just introduced and then forgotten. The next one, a little less so, the Belldandy's ability to read minds. Very first time we're introduced to her, Keiichi asks her if she read his mind, and she says yes. And Belldandy cannot lie. That's an important character trait of hers. She will never lie. Although apparently she can still apply misinformation, because in just an episode or two later, she admits it's not really reading minds, it's reading emotions, and she can see colors around Keiichi, which correspond to his emotions. So she sees his emotions as colors.
Belldandy, we've established that you can read people's minds, am I right?
Yes.
Ah, great. That means I spent all that time planning my confession for nothing.
The way it works, though, is that a person's emotions appear to me as different colors.
Oh.
And even then, I must look very deeply to see them.
Is that right?
It is. An angry person will appear red, and someone who is sad is blue. In other words, I only see it as a vague whirlpool of colors. Oh no, Mr. Keiichi seems blue. Oh, but now he's back to yellow. However,
which is not reading minds. And it doesn't really make sense of some of the things we saw her read earlier from him. But even then, even this is still later forgotten. Because later on, Belldandy needs to be jealous, and you can't really be jealous in the way she is if she could actually see that Keiichi is uncomfortable with the situations that are making her jealous. So they basically forget that she can read his emotions like that. Not that she was ever very good at interpreting those colors.
Blue, something must have happened to make Mr. Keiichi sad. Wait, he's now orange again.
Baldandy!
Yes?
Listen.
Heart rate 150,
there's something I
blood
just have
pressure
to tell you.
170 and rising, and his temperature's 101. This is terrible. I've got to do something.
Huh? Baldandy, what are you doing?
Mr. Keiichi, please, you must try and rest. Your pulse is racing and you have a high fever. Your blood pressure's surging. Your face is red and you are sweating profusely. Oh no, this must be that thing they call an illness.
But I told her I'm not sick.
Because in some ways, sometimes, even though Baldandy is literally the perfect woman, and any woman who is actually watching this video for some reason, you should take note and try to be more like Baldandy. But even though she is the perfect woman, she is written sometimes as kind of a ditz. Not in a bad way, though. Her ditziness stems from either her naivety about human culture or her complete trust in everybody, because she can't lie, so she assumes nobody else is lying. Even though she knows lying's a thing, she just assumes the best in people.
Hello? Is anyone there? It's been 3 minutes and you still haven't said anything. Oh, I know. Maybe you're taking a little nap. It's okay. I understand. It's so mild out today that it's a perfect day to take a nap. Oh my! There's some kind of commotion going on outside.
Which makes her very gullible, in a very endearing way. And the last plot device I want to mention that they introduced and then immediately forgot about, this one's the worst. In one episode, again, I do not remember which episode, Baldandy mentions that there is a time difference between heaven and earth, and 1 second in heaven could be 100 years on earth, or something. This is said to keep her from going to heaven for some reason. I forget what the story was at that point. But it is constantly contradicted, because Erd goes back to heaven repeatedly, and Skull as well, and they never have any issue of returning. There's just no time difference between heaven and earth. I'd say it was really just lazy writing at that point. So then we move on to Season 2, Flights of Fancy, which starts strong. As I mentioned, the first season was good as it is. As a standalone season, you don't actually need to watch anything else. And Season 2 does go downhill. It gets very more sitcom-y and focuses less on the romance between Keiichi and Baldandy, and just has a lot more focus on side characters and side stories. But what's even worse than that is that it forgets how Season 1 ended. But I'll get into that in a second. Like I said, it started out strong, where due to what happened at the end of Season 1, their contract got voided because the computer lost the data. So in order to reinstate the wish contract, Keiichi needs to state his wish again, word for word. And whoever was thinking about continuity did a great job on this point, because comparing it with the actual line from Season 1, he did only miss one word, and even better than that, you could see the moment when he missed the word, Baldandy noticed.
I'd like for a goddess, like you, to stay at my side forever.
Well, that ought to do the trick, right, guys?
The system was unable to recognize your response. Please repeat.
I'd like for a goddess like you to stay at my side forever. Isn't that what I said before?
The line is supposed to be, okay, I'm actually going by memory, so I might mess it up myself, but I wish for a goddess, no, I would like, hang on, I feel like I'm forgetting the first part, because I remember there being a contraction there, but it goes, I would like a goddess like you to stay by my side forever. Keiichi messes it up and says, at my side forever. Just that one little word is the difference. And you can see Baldandy's reaction when he says it wrong. And that is a good attention to detail that I don't think you'll ever notice on the first viewing. I really only noticed it because I was comparing the lines and seeing what it was he messed up. And once I realized what he messed up, you could see the reaction. So that was a strong start to season 2. And season 2, as bad and as sitcom-y as it is, it still has quite a few good stories in it. For instance, Keiichi accidentally calls heaven again and gets a second wish from a different goddess, which seems like a really good story, but they completely mess it up. Because I'll just spoil it right now. What ends up fulfilling the wish is Belldandy telling Keiichi that she loves him. But she already did that in season 1. She actually did it several times in season 1, I believe. But most of the times, things got in the way. Like, one time she was under the effects of a love potion, so Keiichi couldn't trust it. But at the end of the season, there was no issues like that. They both admitted they loved each other. Move on to the next step. They do not move on to the next step. They go backwards. And this storyline would have been a perfect opportunity for them to have their first real kiss. Because throughout the entire series, including the movie, Belldandy kisses him twice, and both are on the cheek, and one of those is in the movie. So this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to have their first real kiss, and they just completely blew it. And also, the last episode of season 2 is really good too, and it makes for a really good season finale. Though it seems like it was not intended to be the season finale, because the season ends 2 episodes short, 22 episodes instead of 24. And the other 2 episodes are just marked as specials. And I don't know why that happened. I'm not Saberspark. I'm not going to go research all that. I'm just going to go by what I see. But it's a good thing those 2 episodes got cut out. Because one of them would have felt out of place. Like if you watch those 2 episodes after the entire season 2, the first one feels out of place. It would have fit better somewhere in the middle of the series season, and the second one clearly intended itself to be a season finale, but the whole point of that story is Keiichi again admitting to Belldandy that he loves her, or telling her that he loves her, which she has a hard time doing, but he already did it in the end of season 1. Also, Peorth being the goddess who got called down for his second wish, and then she left after it was granted, but for some reason she's here. So really this episode, which seems like it could have been a season finale, seems like it was intended to be a season finale, also would have fit better somewhere in the middle of the season. So really I'd say just skip those 2 episodes. Then after that we have what well, it's shown here as season 3, but it's literally only 3 episodes long. So obviously there is a lot left in the manga that I don't know about because I don't bother reading manga. I am only going by the anime. And the quote-unquote season 3, just being 3 episodes long, first of all, it was never dubbed, so you have to watch it with subtitles. But it also doesn't really serve a purpose. I mean, unless you want to see the sexiest outfit... Unless you want to see the sexiest outfit Belldandy ever wore. Although her swimsuit in season 2 is pretty good too. In fact, I would say I'd prefer her swimsuit in season 2, just for the symmetry, because you can't see it here, but one of her legs is longer than the other, so it's asymmetrical, and I don't care for that. Anyway, that's pretty much season 3. It's just side stories. Nothing really worth watching, I don't think. I mean, unless you really just need to watch more Oh My Goddess, which is understandable, because it is the best romance out there. Then we have Fighting Wings, which is another just 2 or 3 episodes. And this one I do actually think is worth watching. Much like season 3, it's not dubbed, just subbed. But there is something that happens in it which I don't want to say for spoilers. It doesn't serve the romance at all. It's just a side character thing, but I really don't feel like spoiling it. And finally, we have the movie, which was based on the OVA, and you can really tell it was based on the OVA because the voices are the same as the OVA, which isn't great when you're used to Keiichi sounding the way he does. And he's voiced by a completely different person. And everybody else mostly sounds the same. At least they're close enough that it's not jarring, but Keiichi is completely different. And I read one comment online that said he thought they got married, not necessarily in the movie, but in the series. I don't know whether he was talking about the manga or the anime, because in the anime, they definitely do not get married. I mean, as I said earlier, they never even kissed each other. But there is a scene in the movie which, if you're not remembering it correctly, could be interpreted as a wedding, or marriage, at least. But no. I think the movie leans a bit too heavy into solving the problem of the main villain through action. What I mean is, I think the way they defeated him should have been Baldandi and Keiichi's love for each other. Should have somehow won the day. But I don't think that's what happened, exactly. There was this whole Judgment Gate, which again was very plot devicey. It was introduced as this test for Baldandi and Keiichi, and when it came time, they were just at the gate, there to test themselves. It just seemed so arbitrary that they were just there in front of the gate and they had to test their love for each other, or commitment to each other, or whatever. And who knows, maybe I'm forgetting something because that Judgment Gate really just was arbitrarily put in front of them. So maybe going through the gate was the key to victory, but I only watched it like a week ago and already my memory of the ending's getting fuzzy. I have no doubt I will develop dementia. For instance, I completely forgot one of the things I was probably going to talk about because of course I don't take notes, was I was gonna actually compare Oh My Goddess to those other two animes I reviewed in this same video. For instance, in My Happy Marriage, I complained that the main girl just suddenly getting powers was just a plot device. It was unnecessary and they shouldn't have had any powers in the show at all. But obviously, Oh My Goddess is different. Baldandi does have powers, but here it works. Because Baldandi is a goddess, she should have powers. And the whole point of the story is that she's a goddess. Which brings me to the main comparing note between Oh My Goddess and Rent-A-Girlfriend. Which it almost seems insulting to Oh My Goddess to even bring it down to Rent-A-Girl's level just to compare them. Rent-A-Girlfriend is just that bad. But there are some similarities. Kazuya and Keiichi are both basically unable to express their feelings to the person they love. But at least, but even then, when you compare them, Keiichi's like an alpha male compared to Kazuya. It's like night and day. Like, there are times when you want to just slap Keiichi, get him, just kiss her, or whatever. But Kazuya, you just want to shoot. And another aspect they're similar is that the female protagonist is basically out of the league of the male protagonist. But Oh My Goddess does this so much better because it actually shows you that Baldandi cares. That there is actually love on both sides. And it also doesn't seem insulting to her character to think that she likes Keiichi, whereas Chizuru liking Kazuya is a total insult to her character. I just cannot even go into all the ways Oh My Goddess is so much better. So, let's move on to the final tally. Alright, back again. This is actually a third recording for me. Before I get into this, there is something else I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention. There's probably a few things I forgot, but I just wanted to mention that I prefer the opening to the OVA rather than the opening to the main series. The main series opening is pretty much what you would expect from a 2005 anime, where more attention is given to the animation of the opening than the actual show. But what I prefer from the OVA is the music. The 2005 version it's not a bad song, it's good, decent opening music. But the OVA opening just has that 90s nostalgia feel. Like, even if you've never seen the OVA opening, you can watch it and still feel nostalgic with that type of music. But anyway, on to the scoreboard. It is sexy, but not sexualized. Or at least not overly sexualized. Obviously, any sexualization pretty much has a point to it, because it's possibly there to make Belldandy jealous if somebody's being very sexual towards Keiichi. Point being, it's not sexualized for the sake of the audience. So it's just sexy sometimes. Now, I will say it is sexy for the sake of the audience, but not sexualized. Obviously, there's no nudity. This is as wholesome, about as wholesome of an anime as you're gonna find. Not that it's impossible to be more wholesome, because it certainly is, but homosexuality is pretty non-existent. There may be a 1 or 2 times where it's used jokingly. For instance, I think it's in the season 2, what would have been the season finale but got cut out episode. Erd swallows one of her own potions to prove to Peyorth that it's harmless, and then she acts like it was a love potion and creeps Peyorth out. Just a very harmless joke that nobody should have any problem with. And, of course, there is no transsexualism or bestiality or incest or pedophilia. None of that at all. Violence, technically, yes, but it's hardly there at all, really. Like, even the episodes where fighting is occurring, fighting just isn't what the anime is about. And it's really just a means to an end. And of course, in those times when it does have some minor violence, it's Looney Tunes level brutality. No one's gonna die. No one's at any risk. I think the only time somebody does die is in the movie, and that's not even the result of fighting. I actually don't know how that guy died. Think they just didn't know how to write him out of the story. So there's no gore of any sort. Skip to witchcraft. There is incantations, as maybe I've shown. I don't remember. Even if I didn't do the last recording like a day or 2 ago, I still might not remember if I've actually shown it or not, because I haven't even edited anything yet, just recording. But there's some incantation, but as I pointed out earlier, this is an appropriate use of incantation, because the goddesses are exercising their authority. So it's like the best possible use of an incantation you can have. Now, I didn't mark this, but Isaiah 520 trope. Obviously, not the first two, but just straight up switching good for bad and bad for good. I don't know. This does remind me of another thing I forgot to mention, but I'm pretty sure Belldandy's father is the Almighty One. They never really state it in the anime, but there are signs that it might be. So I really probably should mention this. But in Season 2, it is revealed that this universe's version of Satan is actually a woman who happens to be Erd's mother. So Erd is Belldandy's half-sister. So the implication I'm drawing from this is that the Almighty One and the Queen of Demons had a child together. I could be wrong. It's never actually stated that the Almighty One is Belldandy's father, but they never show her father or her mother. And in fact, when they do show the Almighty One, they don't even show a person. He just seems like a computer. But given that the Queen of Demons is Erd's mother, you could probably find some reason to call that switching bad for good in some way, even though she's never portrayed as really that good of a person, other than the fact that she cares for her daughter sometimes. And lastly, language is very minor. I was actually surprised about this one here, but it literally only happened once. And these, I know they all happened, but given that I do not mind saying damn and crap myself, it's actually very easy for me to miss them, but I still think it's a very low uses. So it looks like I'm giving Oh My Goddess a total of 9 strikes. So about 9 strikes out of a possible 119 strikes. Very good score. I didn't actually bother counting the strikes with the other two, but I'd say it's comparable. And unfortunately, even though Oh My Goddess is the absolute best romantic anime, I cannot give it 5 stars because of the sitcom level writing. Even if you cut out season 2 and just focus on season 1, maybe 4.5 stars. But I still don't think the writing is there to make it 5 stars. But 4 stars is still really good. And although the first season is a standalone season and you don't need to watch anything else, I still recommend watching the second season as well. It's still got a lot of good stories in there. Even if it completely drops the ball, it's still worth the watch. So, in summary, My Happy Marriage is a 2, maybe 2.5 stars. Not recommended, not worth the watch, but it is watchable, at least. Rent-A-Girlfriend is absolute trash. When I first started reviewing animes, I told myself I wasn't going to give anything a 1 star unless it was something I actually stopped and did not finish at least the first season. But I think I'm going to have to change that for Rent-A-Girlfriend. Rent-A-Girlfriend is a 1 star anime. Even though I've managed to watch the whole first season, it's just not good. For all the reasons I laid out here, and for all the reasons, or at least most of the reasons, that every other anime YouTube reviewer has said. And Oh My Goddess is the absolute best when it comes to romance anime, rom-coms. Yeah, not even just anime, just rom-coms in general. Oh My Goddess is the best. 4 stars. Absolutely recommend. There are some romance animes I still need to watch. Like, I just recently found out about an anime called Bed and Breakfast for the Spirits, or Hotel for the Spirits, or something. I haven't actually looked into it, but it looked like it might be good. And then, of course, there's The Ancient Magus Bride, which I guess I could say I know the title and nothing else. But I know it exists. But even though I haven't watched those, I am absolutely confident that even if they're better written than Oh My Goddess, they won't surpass it. And that's mostly because of Belle Dandy. Because Belle Dandy is the perfect woman, and no one is gonna write a better one. A real woman would still be preferable, but it is what it is. Alright, that's it. I've got nothing more to say. Everyone, go watch Oh My Goddess.